When it comes to Thanksgiving, a lot of people worry about awkward discussions with someone at the family meal. Why is that worse than it sounds? Awkward discussions at family Thanksgiving are worse than they sound, not just because of the pain of talking to Uncle Fred, or the difficulty of choking down your turkey while Aunt Susie gives you an earful about things. No, the difficulty about this is twofold. Number one, it's divisive. Number two, we feel like there isn't an answer. So if we're going to talk about social issues, if we're going to talk with our family members, our aunts, our uncles, our cousins, our own mom and dad, our own siblings, about things like, what's the meaning of love? What's the meaning of community? How is a community formed? How should a community be governed? If we're to talk about things like that, if we don't think there's a clear answer, right, we get divided. You find all the articles in the magazines about having the awkward conversation with your uncle at Thanksgiving. And so maybe you've been through that experience of having that awkward conversation with an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, someone over what's the meaning of love, what's the meaning of marriage, what's the meaning of a family, what's the meaning of a community, what's the meaning of just our own identity in general. And we despair because we think there's no answer and all we're left is with division. What we don't understand is one of the culprits of this division is actually something that seems like it should be resolving the division or disarming the division. And that culprit is moral relativism. If you're not familiar with moral relativism is the idea that you can have your truth and I can have my truth. You can have your truth about the meaning of love and life, and I can have my understanding of love and life, and we're all just going to get along happily ever after. It doesn't work that way. Okay, the problem is that these are important questions. This is just a question of whether or not you like the bison or you like the jackrabbits. Those are, somewhat important questions, but at the end of the day, we don't live or die on whether or not we're a bison or a jackrabbit fan. But on the important questions, what's the meaning of family? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of love? What's the meaning of community? On these important questions, we do live and die, and we have a lot more skin in the game in that regard, our happiness. And so we don't just want to let you have your answer and me have my answer, because there's going to be then conflict. And so that in our pride, our sinfulness, we don't just let bygones be bygones. You go your way, I'll go mine, which is what the spirit of relativism says will happen. No, in our fallen human nature, we want to duke it out. But the problem is, under moral relativism, we can't duke it out, because you have your way and I have mine. And so then we find new grounds in which to argue these things, new grounds to decide who has superiority, and that's where things get nasty. This is where things get nasty, because if we could just debate on the truth and have belief that we can know the truth and know it with confidence and identify, oh, here's a common ground of argument, okay, from human reason, from human experience, available to every person under the sun. Then we could say, this is the meaning of family, this is the meaning of marriage, this is the meaning of life. But since we despair on that, what do? Right? We have to find some other ground to exercise this argument, and the only other ground left to us is power. When there's no truth left to settle an argument, the only way to settle the argument is with power. And who will claim power? So how do we claim power? We claim power through our emotional arguments. We claim power through our desire to control the conversation. We claim moral power by saying we have the upper ground because I know someone who suffered, and because they suffered in this way, your opinion is not valid. Or maybe just by the shouting that we do. We try to claim power. But looking at power as the solution to our problems is not a good road to go down for individuals or for society. For families, for towns, for cities, for nations, for anyone. So how do we get out of this? It's going to take a lot longer than this video to do it. But just identify. So when you find yourself fighting over these things and fighting over the power to decide right or wrong, something's gone terribly wrong. We need to come back to the idea that there is truth. There's things that can be known. At the end of the day, remember that we're in this together. Stay calm. And let's see, how can we find common ground to build in our discussion? Not just claiming power, but remembering that we're all in it together. Find the common ground. God bless you. I love you. Have a great week.